Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 229 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about adventure, embracing the adventure. So buckle up, open your mind to what adventure you are being called into. At the end of this episode, after offering a reflection of where this call comes from, I am going to ask you to really meditate on what in life, what adventure in life you are being called to respond to. My dad used to always say that every day is a new adventure. It's kind of his way of saying you have like a fresh start each and every day, but he would say every day is an adventure. You know, let the morning bring in the new adventure. And that sentiment has kind of always stuck with me. And I think there are so many opportunities in my life where there has been a call to adventure, and out of anxiety, out of stress, out of fear, out of lack of paying attention, I have not responded to that call to adventure. There's been a lot of times that there has been a response to the call to adventure. And what I would say from reflecting on my own life, that in terms of when I've responded to the call to adventure by saying yes, it almost always has ended in some amazing benefit, some eye-opening experience, some mindset shift. So I was reading this quote. I was trying to find, I'm a quote guy. I like to start off the podcast with a quote, but I was reading this quote, and it's by Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she says, if you're going to answer the call and you're going to transform and you're going to change, get ready. It's not a day at the beach. If you're going to answer the call and you're going to transform, and you're going to change, get ready. It's not a day at the beach. Well, unfortunately, Elizabeth, I got to disagree with you, because the response to one of the calls I'm going to talk about is exactly a day at the beach, literally a day at the beach. And I'll get into that here in just a moment. But what Elizabeth is trying to say is that when we answer the call to adventure, it's not going to be easy. It's going to probably lead to pain. It's going to lead to suffering. But that is where ultimate fulfillment comes from, is from the excruciating process of growth. Growth is rough. Growth is difficult. It's going to mean pain. It's going to mean suffering. It's going to mean discomfort. And so in responding to the call to adventure repeatedly, I think we can build up a muscle in our brain that allows us to get comfortable being uncomfortable, as the proverbial saying goes. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I'm going to talk today about the adventure happening in my life this month. I'm recording this episode on September 3rd, and I have a series of adventures that are getting ready to go down this month. And so I'm going to talk about the call to adventure for each of these events, and then ask you at the end of this reflection, what adventure are you being called into? If you want to eliminate burnout in your life, if you're stressed, if you're tired of the mundane day-to-day tasks, where are you being kind of called into adventure? Where's the spark? Because there is some great things that each one of us is both capable of and I think designed and built to do. So where is that call to adventure? So first call to adventure is for me personally, that's happening this month. In fact, it's happening tomorrow, is that me and my family are moving to North Topsail Beach, from the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina to the beautiful coast of Eastern North Carolina. And this is a call that it's almost going to sound like strange for me to say this out loud, because there's so few times in my life where I have received such a direct call, but this is a call from God, the author of this call. And I'm going to talk about some other places that calls come from for people that don't have kind of a Christian or religious kind of framework. I've got some other examples in terms of calls, but this is one of the few times in my life that I have received like just a hammer over the head call from God repeatedly, because I was ignoring it at first for months. In fact, once I received this 2x4 to the head, it took a year for me to say, okay, God, I'm going to go ahead and act on this. This call really started coming front and center around Easter of last year, Easter of 2023. And it's amazing like how direct this calling was. It didn't make sense because my wife and I grew up in Western North Carolina. We've both lived here our entire adult lives. So outside of like going to school, first in Virginia for college and then to Charlotte for law school, I've lived in this area my entire life. I'm going to be turning 40 next year. So 40 years old, never really like lived other than just being a student outside of Waynesville and Asheville. That's where I've lived, Western North Carolina. My wife never lived outside of Asheville except during our first couple of years of marriage when I was going to law school in Charlotte. So for both of us, this is home. Western North Carolina is home. This is where we've built our family. This is where we have built our life. My business was built out of Asheville. There are relationships. We have friends. We have an amazing church group. So this call just did not make sense to me. And I resisted this call, this very clear and direct call from God to move with my family to the coast, move into North Topsail Beach tomorrow. As I resisted this call, things in my life became more difficult. Our kids' educational situation, we've got a number of kids with some pretty significant learning delays. That became more difficult. Some family dynamics became more difficult. And it was one of those things where you just feel this pressure, this stress of, okay, I'm not responding to what I'm supposed to be doing. So over the past several months, we have made this commitment to this is what we're going to do. Again, into this great unknown, into this great adventure. We've had to tell people at work, we've had to tell people in our parish community, we've had to tell family members this kind of somewhat like bittersweet news of like, here's this very clear calling that we've received, but also, it's gonna bring a lot of sadness and a lot of change in terms of proximity to the people that we've grown so close to. But as a result of answering this call, so many amazing doors have been opened. And I truly believe that this, as more and more doors have been opened and more signs have indicated, your response to my call, my son Jake, is actually what you're supposed to be doing. The more that we've kind of responded to that call, the more things have been lining up for us in terms of our kids' education, relationships that we've already started to build down in the Sneads Ferry, North Topsail Beach, Onslow County area. The way that this is going to impact our family dynamic and allow us to have more time together as a family. The opportunity to really kind of double down on some of the efforts on the work front. I think that this is going to provide, it's just an amazing, it's an amazing thing, because again, when I first was, just basically pushing it off and saying, God, this cannot be what you are asking me to do. It just does not make sense. I think that I ignored the call for a year, and there's a pretty good chance that I could have just ignored it completely, ignored it altogether, and just said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. And again, this is a call that I believe I've received from another person, a divine person, that is, but from another person. I could have just said, you know what? I got to hang up the phone now because this is not what I imagined. I don't see how this could work. This doesn't make sense. I don't trust in this. And finally, through a lot of prayer and God repeatedly hitting me in the head, proverbially by a 2x4, surrender took place and the adventure begins. And I think it's going to result in a lot of amazing opportunities for my family, for my marriage, for my kids, for me in my work environment, for helping to grow the firm, create the culture that we are trying to create here at our firm. I just think there are so many blessings that are going to come out of that response to the call. So, packing up the cars tonight, heading to the coast. That's adventure number 1 happening this month. In 2 weeks from now, I'll be heading up to Virginia to run a 100-mile race, the Grindstone 100. And the call to this adventure is much more of, I would say, an interior call, an interior yearning, an interior desire, something that is like built into me to test my physical and mental limits. There's something that I am just drawn to in this distance of race and in this kind of endurance trial that is about trying to push the absolute physical and mental limits within myself. And that's what the reason for signing up for this race has been and continues to be. This will be my third 100-mile race. The first was the Daytona 100, and the primary goal was to finish sub 20. I'm sorry, sub 18, finished in 19 hours and 20 minutes. But really the main goal, even though it was a secondary goal, was just to finish the race. Last year, I did the 100-mile race down in Kings Mountain, the Beast of the East. Talked about this on the podcast episode. And again, primary goal was to finish sub 24 hours. I finished in just over 24 hours. I think it was something like 20 minutes more than 24 hours. I can't remember the exact time, but somewhere around there. But again, this was a lot of elevation gain, very different than the Daytona race. So really primary goal was to just finish. This go around, I'm kind of going in with a different mindset. It's really more about, instead of finishing, to me is very likely, unless I just get basically physically knocked out of the race. Something happens to my body where I literally cannot keep moving forward. I break a bone, I have some sort of horrible internal reaction. My body just can't respond. But the goal is not to finish. Secondary goal is not to finish. This is about going out and being competitive with other people that are running the race, but more importantly, with myself. How much can I push myself? There's just something built into me that wants to know, where is the lid? What can I accomplish with the training that I have put in? What physical limitations that I thought were barriers can I break through personally? And so there's this internal calling, I think we all have these areas in life that we know we're not living up to expectations, whether it's some sort of poor habit, vice that we are regularly giving into, or just kind of not pushing ourselves, not trying to kind of break through the ceiling, not trying to get to the next level. We can all feel when we're leaving something on the table. Definitely can feel when we're taking a step backwards, but I think even when things are just kind of going hunky dory, everything's good, I think we can feel like we are leaving something on table, and we know we're not living up to that fullest expectation. I was listening to this David Goggins episode the other day, and he says the thing that he fears most is that when he goes in front of God at the end of his life, that he would, in response to this kind of moment of final resting, kind of be shown what his life could have looked like had he broken through the barriers that he failed to break through. What could it have been if he had, again, in our words of the day, answered the call? Got to leave it on the field. My soccer coach, high school, used to say that all the time at halftime. You guys aren't playing. You're not playing hard enough. You need to leave it all on the field. And you hear, all different areas of athletics, all different sports use that same analogy. Leave it all on the court, leave it all on the field, because we know when we're not living up to our potential. And if you don't answer that call to adventure of like, man, where am I not living up to my fullest potential? You leave that call to adventure alone, it's going to haunt you. It doesn't make the adventure any less easy. This call to adventure on the running front has meant a lot of early wake up times. It has meant a lot of miles on the trail in the dark with headlamp only, a lot of uncomfortable situations in terms of just physical and mental stress. And I mean, there's definitely been plenty of times running where it's been like amazing and mentally freeing, but there is a certain amount of just true grind difficulty that comes through answering that call to adventure. So where are these opportunities in life that we are being called into pushing our physical and mental limits, pushing our spiritual limits? Where are we able to get outside of the comfort zone? And finally, the big third thing, the big number 3 adventure of the month is the Freedom Fighters Summit, happening at the end of this month on the 26th and 27th here in Nashville. And I've talked a little bit about this on the podcast. I've promoted it. We haven't done a commercial like we did last year, but I've definitely talked a fair enough about it in past episodes. But Where did the call from this come from? Well, ultimately, it came from a call to elevate our team and the legal profession. Came from a call to elevate the team and the legal profession. There's been a number of people on the that are speaking at this summit, and sponsors and attendees that I have talked to, and I have shared, where did this thing come out of? Where did the Freedom Fighter Summit stem from? So I'm going to share that kind of like origin story, because again, I just think that there's callings that come from different places. So the Freedom Fighter Summit really originated with a training that I did with the Ritz-Carlton leadership team. I did a virtual workshop on building a wow customer experience. I don't think wow was the word they used. That's what we used at the conference when the Ritz-Carlton came and presented. But how to build this amazing customer experience. And on this virtual call, there were people that were doctors and accountants and construction owners, people from all different professional professional backgrounds. And after I watched this virtual workshop, I was like, this is a training that I want to bring to my team. I was blown away by it. I was like, this is amazing. So I reached out to the Ritz-Carlton leadership team and said, I want to do this workshop in person for my team so that we can figure out how to build a wow experience for our clients. And we talked about it, and the lady on the phone went through what this was going to look like and encompass, and it just sounded as amazing as I was picturing. So ultimately, I said, sounds awesome. I want to do it. Tell me how much this is going to cost. And she said $10,000. And my heart kind of like stopped. My heart kind of stopped. And so I was kind of thinking through, like, how in the heck is this going to work? And then, kind of like practically, this part of my brain spoke up and was kind of like, you got 20 people on the team. Is this including everybody on the team? Is there a limit to this? So I said, how many people can come to this event? Because I want to make sure my whole team was going to get included if we're going to spend this kind of moolah on a team training. And she responded, if you're doing a live workshop, then you can have up to 100 people at your event. So immediately in my brain, I mean, really without skipping a beat, like this, it was kind of like, all right, this is the start of something. I was like, okay. And so I mentally in my own head said, I'm going to get 100 people to take advantage of your training. So that was kind of the origin story of last year's summit, of the Freedom Fighter Summit. This is like going back into the like late part of 2022 when I had this conversation. And I was like, we're going to build this into something that other attorneys can take advantage of. But then there's also just this pull towards my brothers and sisters in criminal defense, because I really do think that as lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, we are laying it on the line every day to uphold the Constitution and to defend those people that need protecting when there is very limited protections in place. Defenders of the Constitution is how I see those in the criminal defense space. All of these other practice areas, personal injury, family law, estate planning, they have these business-based conferences that are supposed to help attorneys not only succeed in the courtroom, which is what CLE does, but to succeed in practice, to succeed in building the team that they want to build, to succeed in getting the types of cases that they most get juiced to handle, to succeed in life so that they can provide for their families. That's what these conferences are designed to do, to help attorneys elevate themselves, their teams, their communities to the next level through upping their game. I didn't see anything that existed like that for criminal defense lawyers. And it's a shame because I think criminal defense lawyers deserve to have the type of practice that they dream about having when they're working so hard for clients in the courtroom. So there's like this internal pull, but it really was like almost a spur of the moment decision when I heard you can have up to 100 people. It's like, all right, we have got to find a way to get other people to take advantage of this training. And this call to adventure has then led to Freedom Fighters Summit 2.0 happening this month. And I am just so excited about the adventure of this second go round. The opportunity for all of us that are going to be in Asheville here in 3 weeks to take our practices to the next level. I mean, truly to push ourselves to upping the game. And by the time this thing airs, this is going to be like 2 weeks away from the summit. But that call to adventure, again, it's something where the easy option would have been to say, you know what, $10,000 is too much. We just can't really afford that for our team, which would have been true. I mean, that's a lot of dang money. The easy thing would be to say, okay, well, even if we're going to do a team training, we're not going to like make a big event out of this. We're not going to make a 2-day event and tack on for last year another $55,000 in costs and generate only $15,000 in revenue, and ultimately taking a $50,000 loss on that year one event. It's not going to make sense. That's dumb. Why would we respond to this call? But because of taking that like leap of faith, starting down this road, I really believe that those of us at the Freedom Fighter Summit are going to truly change our practices, not only in the moment, but over the course of weeks and months to follow as we continue to have conversations that are going to be planned at the summit to occur, that we're going to continually try to up the game on that front. And ultimately, because I think we're going to be upping the game amongst those in attendance, it's going to elevate the level of criminal defense representation across the state of North Carolina, because we all see each other in the courtroom. We all see each other practicing, handling cases. We all share with our colleagues, hey, how are you making this work? What are you doing? It looks like you've got things that are going well. And obviously nobody's got it all figured out, but anybody that is working at a high level appears to be having some level of success. Other people try to imitate and emulate that. If you're not trying to imitate people that are successful, you're an idiot, because that's how you get better at what you do, is by imitating people that are doing it well. So if this helps us as a group to elevate our game within our practices, it should automatically help elevate the entire bar across the state. And that's exciting. It's a cool call to adventure. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. What in your life are you being called to? What feels incredibly uncomfortable? What makes you feel like, that just seems like that's too big a goal. That's too dangerous a path to go down. I don't think I can hit that ceiling and break it. What is the adventure, the call to adventure in your life that could change who you are? And as the author of our quote from the beginning, said, "It's not going to be a day at the beach. It's going to be tough." The call to adventure is not easy, but that is what makes it so fulfilling. I'm a big lover of the Lord of the Rings. We can all sit in the Hobbit hole, right? It's comfortable. Bilbo loves being in the Shire. He loves being in his house. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Baggins End or some along those lines. That I probably just made somebody like lose their head because of missing that. But um, he's sitting in his house. He's got his pipe. He's got his great food. He's got, all of these creature comforts surrounding him. Everything seems to be going just fine. He's got his beautiful garden. And then Gandalf walks into his house. Gandalf walks Bag End. I think it's Bag End is the name of the house, not Baggins End. But Gandalf walks into Bag End and he sees Bilbo and he says, we gotta get out of here. There's something that I need your help with. We got to get on the journey. You got to get out of the creature comforts. You got to get out of the space. And where we're going, it is dangerous. There's going to be trolls and goblins and dragons and death at every corner. And the easy thing to do would be to say, I'm going to sit here and smoke my pipe and eat my food and drink my beer. And yeah, this is where I am. But Bilbo and then later his nephew Frodo, they respond to the call to adventure. They respond to the call to get out of the comfort zone, out of their home, out of the Shire altogether, and to go into a space that is riddled with danger in order to reach a new level of personal growth and to change the world itself. Where is the call to adventure in your life? And are you going to respond to that call?